Om Akhandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Pranam Namasarvebhyaha. Thank you for joining us today. So we are now in the 15th shloka of the 7th chapter. Today we will be doing only one shloka. And I've titled this as 4 types of misguided persons, or dushkritinaha. To do a quick recap, in the last session, we were talking about the 3 gunas of Maya, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. The 3 gunas are also, you can say, like the 3 ropes. Guna in Sanskrit also means a rope. And Maya Prakriti uses these 3 ropes to bind the Jivatma in the samsara, this material existence. Why does Maya bind the Jivatma? This is because the Jivatma desires to enjoy in this material world. This material existence is not the constitutional place where the Jivatma should enjoy. His real happiness is within himself and in his connection with Bhagavan. That is the message of the Gita. Okay, now among these 3 ropes which are binding the Jivatma, the best one is Sattva, which is what Shri Bhagavan wants us to adopt. He says that when Sattva Guna is the prominent influence on the Jivatma, then the Jivatma experiences knowledge. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam. So from Sattva, there is a sense of knowledge, a sense of being free, a sense of lightness, calmness of mind. So we all, for example, we all want peace of mind, right? Peace of mind and lack of stress is a common goal for all of us. Even if we are not pursuing spirituality, anybody in this world will say, yes, I want more peace of mind. So the simple solution is try to develop more sattva in your life. If you're able to develop sattva by following an appropriate lifestyle, then automatically, even without doing anything else, a sense of calmness, peace of mind will develop. Okay, so all these qualities we discussed in the last class. And in the Gita, as I pointed out last time, out of 560 or so shlokas, 570 odd shlokas that Sri Bhagavan speaks in the Gita, 80 shlokas are devoted to only this topic of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. In different ways, he touches upon how they produce different effects in the life of the Jivatma, and how among them Sattva is the best one, and one should aim to be in Sattva. And therefore, in all the yogic processes aim to ultimately get what is called as bhakti or prema. Now, all of them, they advocate living a sattvic lifestyle and trying to move into more and more sattva. So we also discussed, we touched upon 3 shlokas last time. Shloka number 12, 13 and 14 of the 7th chapter. And these 3 shlokas are focused on the 3 gunas. In the 14th shloka, which was the last of them, Shri Bhagavan says, Daivihi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. This shloka is very important because it points out that it's nice to talk about the 3 gunas, but our goal should be to not just talk about them, but think of how do we come out of them? How do we overcome the Maya, which is using these 3 gunas to bind us? And the answer is this. Shri Bhagavan says, if you take my refuge, mam eva means only me, ye prapadyante, those who come to my shelter or those who take refuge of me. In other words, those who perform my bhakti and connect with me, only they, mayam etam tarantite, they can overcome or cross over this Maya. Taranti literally means swim. So swim across, taranti. So the one who can cross over, swim across this ocean of Maya. So having said this, then the question comes, well, there are so many learned people in this world, and why is it that despite being so learned, so educated, they don't realize this, and why are they not able to cross over Maya? So in answer to this question is not explicitly asked by Arjuna. It's a natural question that comes to mind if somebody hears this. So Sri Bhagavan speaks the 15th shloka, the Gita. He says, Namam dushkritino mudaha prapadyante naradhamaha mayaya apahrita jnanaha asuram-bha vam-a. So this shloka will be the focus of today's session. We'll do only one shloka because there is a lot in this which can be discussed. So Sri Bhagavan here, he says, na mam, and this verb prapadyante. So earlier he had said, mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Now he's saying, na mam prapadyante. So the following people do not take my refuge. And who are these people? So he is using one common term, an umbrella term for all of them, dushkritinaha. Okay, so what does this word mean? We will look at it in a moment. The word dushkritinaha is actually the plural of the word dushkritin or dushkriti. The root word is dushkritin in Sanskrit, nakaranta. It's a nakaranta shabda. And its declension is dushkriti, dushkritinau, dushkritinaha, dushkritinam, dushkritinau, dushkritinaha. So this is Prathama Vibhakti, Bahuvachanam. So dushkritinaha, these people who are called dushkritis, they are of four types. So who are dushkritis? I'll come to that. But first, these are the four types of dushkritis. Mudaha. Mudaha means fools. Mudaha in Hindi also mood vyakti, foolish person. Mudaha in Sanskrit, foolish person or fool. Naradhamaha. Nareshu adhamaha. Adhamaha means very low, base. Naraha means human being. The lowest among human beings. Naradhamaha. Mayaya apahrita jnanaha. Mayaya, by maya, apahritam. Apahritam means snatched away, grabbed away. Okay? So snatched away by maya, jnana, knowledge. Those whose knowledge has been snatched away by maya. Mayaya apahrita jnanaha. It's in plural. And finally, asuram-bha vam-a. Those who have taken the shelter, instead of taking my refuge, they have taken shelter of asura bhava, asuric qualities. Okay, in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, he will discuss in great detail Daivi and Asuri bhava, Daivi guna, Asuri guna. That will be examined or analyzed in great detail. So here he is just touching upon it. He just says the fourth category of person who doesn't take my refuge is a person who takes refuge of the demoniac qualities, Asuric bhava. Okay, so first we'll understand each of these five terms. The first term is dushkritin. So dushkritin, so what I have done is basically I have studied the commentaries of Vishwanath Chakravarti and Baladeva Vidya, these two Sanskrit commentaries, which I have been referring to and citing very frequently in my sessions. So Vishwanath Chakravarti was a Sanskrit scholar, Vedantic scholar who lived in the 17th century, or I should say, 17th century. And Sri Baladeva Vidya, the second one, he lived in the 18th century. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, so one thing they commonly agree, they said that these are actually educated people. The Dushkriti word does not refer to, by itself, the word sounds as if Dushkriti, jo dusht kaam karta hai, one who is a wicked person who does nonsensical things. No, not necessarily. This does not necessarily refer to such people, because actually, when Sri Bhagavan is talking about the context of who does not take my shelter, then a lot of people don't. But then he wants to be more specific. Among people who have the potential to take my shelter, who does not take my shelter? It's like saying that today was the day of the IIT entrance exam. The JEE Advanced was held today. So suppose somebody asks, who do you think will not qualify in the exam? What kind of people will not qualify in the JEE Advanced exam? Obviously, you will be talking about people who have written the exam. People who have the potential to pass the exam. We are not going to talk about people who are not writing the exam at all, right? It doesn't make any sense. So here you're talking about people who can potentially take his shelter, which means they have basic knowledge, which can take them towards Sri Bhagavan, but still they don't. Okay, so both Vishwanath Chakravarti and Baladeva Vidya, they say these are actually people who are educated. They are scholars who have exposure to education, the traditional education, Shastra, and potentially they can take shelter of Bhagavan. They can go and take his refuge. They can become his bhaktas, but they don't. He says, why? Because they think they are learned. They are pandita manaha. Panditam manyamanaha. They think that they are panditas, but they are not really panditas. They haven't understood the real conclusion of Shastra. Kupandita. So Shri Baladeva explains, are experts in the meaning of the Shastra. He says there is a shloka from the Katha Upanishad. He cites this shloka. He says, avidyayam antare vartamana. They are situated in avidya actually, even though they have read a lot, they've studied a lot. Swayam dhiraha. They are very resolute in their discipline. They are very disciplined. They are committed. But even though they are like that, they are pandita manyamana. Means they think that they are panditas. Dramdramyamanaha, dandramyamanaha, pariyanti mudaha. Katha Upanishad is saying this. It's not Baladeva's words. He's citing from Katha Upanishad. It says dandramyamanaha means one who is going here and there, not going in a straightforward manner. He's not simple and straightforward. Rather, he is twisted. He is tortuous. Dandramyamanaha pariyanti mudaha. He is moving about in circular logic. Andhenaiva niyamanaha yathandaha. Just like a blind man is led by another blind man. Okay, where will they go? Nowhere. So the blind led by the blind. Basically, like you can say, a person who has no education, suppose, is trying to give education to somebody else who also has no education, then both of them will remain uneducated. But here he's talking about educated people who are like this. Okay, and they reside in avidya, but are firm and resolute and consider themselves as learned. And Katha Upanishad says they are muda. So Baladeva Vidya Bhushana says the word mudaha that Sri Bhagavan is using here is in the same sense that the Katha Upanishad is using. These fools wander about using winding and tortuous, not straightforward logic, and are just like the blind led by the blind. So this is the word dushkriti, and this dushkriti is of 4 types. So he specifically gives a meaning for the word mudaha here. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that mudaha here refers to animals, or rather people who are like animals. Basically, even though they are educated in Shastra, despite all the learning, they are just sakama karmis. They think the goal of life is to just pursue material enjoyment. In fact, a majority of the Veda is teaching us how to get material enjoyment in accordance with dharma, by following the path of dharma in a dharmic manner without incurring pap, how to get material enjoyment. Okay, and that Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti says is actually mudatva, it's foolishness, because the Veda actually should help us to actually attain Bhagavan. So he cites a shloka from the Bhagavata. Nunam daivena vihataha ye cha achyuta katha sudham hitva shrinvanti asadghataha purishamiva vidbhujaha. So nunam means certainly, daivena vihataha. So the divine rejects them. Why? Because daivena vihataha. Vihata means rejected, or eliminated, removed. Achyuta katha sudham hitva. Instead of hearing the nectarine stories of Krishna, Achyuta katha sudham. Achyuta is Krishna. Katha stories, and sudha. Sudha means nectar. So instead of hearing that, shrinvanti asadghataha. They are only interested in hearing lowly, mundane matters. Okay, even though they know, they have studied Shastra, and they know that there is so much nice things to listen to from the Shastra. They will engage in listening to gossip, political matters, who fought with whom, who is now siding with whom. This kind of talk is more interesting to them. So they are just like purishamiva vidbhujaha. Vidbhujaha means a being, an entity which eats stool, right, excreta. So just like pigs, purisha also means stool. So just like pigs, if you give a pig some very tasty food, okay, which you like, let's say you prepare nice rice, sabji, dal, and so on, and go and give it. Okay, first of all, to find a pig, you have to go to a place where there is some excreta, there's some stool. That's where they are roaming around. Let's say you decide that today I'll give them some prasadam which was made in my house. The pig may come and smell it, but it will not like it. It will only go and eat the stool, because that's what it has a taste for. It doesn't have a taste for nice prasadam. So he says it's just like that. People who are educated, who are capable of reading this elevated Shastra, like given in the Bhagavatam or the Gita, instead they go and read something political, and they're interested in such matters. And so the word mudha refers to them. Shri Baladeva Vidya Bhushana says that mudha means a person who thinks, despite reading these things, he thinks that Sri Bhagavan is just like Indra and the other devas. Just like they are subject to the system of karma. You see, the devas in this universe, they're also like we human beings. Just like we say that we human beings are subject to karma, right? If we do good, we get punya. And if we do something wrong, then we get papa, for which we suffer. So this karma, punya karma, papa karma, is applicable to all living beings, including the devas in this universe. The devas like Indra, Varuna, Chandra, those people also, they are very, very much superior to us, but they are not spared of the system of karma. But Sri Bhagavan is not in that category. He is completely outside this material universe. He is untouched by what happens in this universe. And therefore, those who think that he is also like any other deva, he's just like any other divine creature, he is also a Muda. And later on, we'll see that in the next few shlokas, from the 20th shloka onwards in the 7th chapter, Sri Bhagavan distinguishes himself from the other devas. And that will come when it comes there, we'll go into detail. Again, in the 9th chapter. By the time we complete the Gita, we will see how Sri Bhagavan is completely distinct from all other divine beings that we also worship. Okay, the second term is Naradhama. Naradhama means lowest among human beings. So how do they explain this term? Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Naradhama refers to a person who adopts bhakti, who understands that bhakti is the thing to do. Bhakti is the supreme path, and that's what I should be doing. So he adopts bhakti for some time, and he obtains naratva. Naratva means humanness, manavata. So he understands that bhakti means developing all these qualities of a human being, good qualities. And naratva prapt karne ke baad bhi, they perceive that they have not achieved the fruit they were looking for. So which means their motivation for bhakti was not what it should be. That is prema, pure love. But instead, they think that by doing bhakti, all these problems should be solved. I should no longer have this kind of an issue in my life. But it's not happening. I'm still doing bhakti for so much time, but nothing has happened. So then they give up their bhakti. And they lose faith, and then they go back to their material existence. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti says that this giving up of bhakti by volition, by their own volition, is their adhamatvam, is their low classness. Sri Baladeva Vidya explains it like this. He says, even after taking birth in a very learned Brahmana family and obtaining a high status in society, they follow materialistic literature and engage in low-class activities. That is what he says as adhamatva. The third term is mayaya apahrita jnana, knowledge which has been snatched by maya. So what is this? It's obviously referring to a person who is knowledgeable. Vishwanath Chakravarti says that despite having studied Shastra, they carry improper conclusions since their knowledge is snatched by Maya. For example, they may conclude things like this. Only the Vishnu who resides in Vaikuntha. We say Vishnu resides in Vaikuntha. So if you're talking about that Vishnu, then I will accept that he is eternal and he should be the goal of bhakti. He is the one who obtained through bhakti. But if you're talking about that Krishna, Rama that we hear about, these stories of Krishna Leela, Ramayana, etc., these are just human beings like us. They are powerful, intelligent people. For example, Krishna was just a shrewd king. He was intelligent. He did some good things. He became famous. People worship him. But you should know that he is just an ordinary human being. He married so many wives. He played with so many girls. So he's just like you and me. Just like we have desires, he also had desire. So don't get carried away by Krishna. Similarly, Rama. What is there? He ran behind his wife. His wife was taken away by some demon, and all his life he spent looking for her. He's just an ordinary person. So actually people talk like this about Krishna and Rama. I have heard people talking about them like this. So they say when you're talking about Vishnu, it is that Vaikuntha Vishnu whom it's very difficult to get. Not this Krishna, Rama are just things we attribute to that Vishnu. We say that is Vishnu who has come in that form because we see these good qualities in them. That is why we say like that. But they are just human beings. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that they have not understood Shastra at all. He says they have learned a lot, they have read Shastra, but they have come to improper conclusions. The knowledge has been snatched away by Maya. He says, he cites a shloka to support himself. He says, in the Bhagavad-Gita, in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, in the 11th shloka, Sri Bhagavan is saying this. He says, Avajananti mam mudaha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. So Sri Bhagavan says that the foolish people, mudaha, mam avajananti, they don't know me. Why? Because I look like a human being. My form looks like that of a human being. I have a, human-like body, my 2 hands and legs, head. So they think that this guy is just another human being. Because param bhavam ajananta, they don't know my superior nature. Mama bhuta maheshwaram. I am actually the Maheshwara of all the living beings. I am the supreme being. And I am the Ishvara of all the beings. They don't, not knowing this, they think that it is just another human being who has come. So Vishnu Chakravarti says that clearly Sri Bhagavan himself has revealed, and we still talk about him like that, despite this. And obviously they don't take refuge of him at all. Sri Baladeva, he explains it like this. He says that owing to Maya, these people, they propagate kutila nyaya or kuyukti. The word yukti in Sanskrit also means reasoning, logic, reasoning. And kuyukti means inappropriate logic or twisted logic, crooked logic, twisted logic, to say that his nature, it is material nature that is responsible for all creation and is the bestower of final liberation. Like today's modern science says. Okay? So this, even Baladeva, before modern science came, this philosophy was there. It's not that modern scientists are only saying this. This was always there. There was the school of thought that the creation, today we are saying Big Bang and such kind of things, but there was some understanding that what we see as Prakriti, Jada Prakriti, it began by itself. There's no conscious being. There's no conscious being who is the initiator of creation. So this Jadatva, and we are also a product of that same Jadatva, right? So despite, these people have even studied Shruti and Smriti, they can explain to you what Shruti and Smriti is saying, but still they adopt that philosophy in their life. So Shruti and Smriti are clearly saying that Bhagavan is the all-knowing, all-effulgent, or all-affluent, original creator, giver of mukti, and so on. Very clearly it says that repeatedly, again and again it comes. But still they are not able to give up that affiliation to that philosophy. So he says that this is Maya's influence. And finally, the last one, suram-bha vam-a, take refuge of demoniac nature. So here, Vishwanath Chakravarti says, so just like Jarasandha, okay, we know the story of the famous Jarasandha. Jarasandha was a person with demoniac qualities, right? He was a son of a very great king. And his birth itself was very, you can say, horrifying kind of birth, right? He was born, his father actually was not a very demoniac person. His father was just a noble king. And it so happens that some saint comes and gives his father a mango. And this king has 2 wives. So he divides that mango between his 2 wives, and the mango is not meant to be divided. So the queens eat the mango pieces, and each of them gives birth to half a baby. Baby divided by 2, exactly, right? And each part of is symmetric. It has 1 hand, 1 leg, 1 eye, half a nose, half a mouth, etc., etc. Right? So obviously it's horrible to look at. They don't know what to make of it. So what the king does is he says, go and leave it in the forest. Let's get rid of this as quickly as possible. Maybe something very inauspicious happened to us. So when they leave it there, in that forest, there lives a Rakshasi, a man-eater, a Rakshasi by name Jara. Okay? And that's how this guy gets his name. So this Rakshasi, she is looking for human beings to eat, and she comes across this thing, which is a human thing. And she finds these 2 pieces. So she says, let me take it home to eat. Let me see what it is. And so she puts them together. And when she takes them and because she has put them together, it has a property like magnet, Put them together, the 2 pieces will become one. It becomes a living baby. So suddenly she finds that there is a very beautiful looking, a living baby here, the son of a king, right? So he's good looking also. So she goes to the king and says, I have found this beautiful baby, please accept it. I don't want to eat this, such a small, cute little thing. So please take it. I'm actually a man-eater, but I don't want to eat this. Okay. So even man-eaters are honest, actually. They go and say, I'm a man-eater, but I don't want to eat this. So the king is very happy. He understands that it is that same two pieces that he has discarded that has come back to him as one living baby. So he brings up that baby, and that is Jarasandha. And this Jarasandha, he marries his sisters. He's demoniac by nature, so he has very, very asuric qualities in him. He thinks that he follows dharma. Even Duryodhana thought he was following dharma, actually. So he's actually a very adharmic person. So he goes and marries his sisters to Kamsa. Krishna comes and kills Kamsa, so his sisters are now become widows. So Jarasandha is extremely angry with Krishna for making his sisters into widows, right? Anybody would be. So he goes and attacks Mathura, which is Krishna's place. Krishna is ruling from Mathura. Krishna and Balaram are in Mathura after Kamsa's death, right? So he goes and he wants to plunder Mathura, finish Mathura. So Aurangzeb-like thinking. So he wants to plunder Mathura, but he is unable to do that because Krishna and Balaram are very easily able to handle him, very, very easily able to handle him very comfortably. But Krishna knows how strong he is. He tells Balaram that it's not easy to defeat this guy. He's very powerful. I'm not killing him because there is a prophecy which says that his death will be at the hands of Bhima. Yeah, there's a prediction. So I don't want to go against that prediction by bringing his death before Bhima does it. So I'll leave it to Bhima to do that. That's his job. So I will just play with him. So each time he comes, so this guy attacks Mathura some n times. I think n equal to 21 or something like that, some big number. Okay, so he attacks so many times, but still he's not able to do anything much to Mathura. Eventually, what happens is Krishna says that, let's all move. I mean, Krishna is above all of these things, right? He's not bothered. So he's done his job of having a fight with this chap. So he says, let's all now move to Dwaraka. So he takes all his residents from Mathura and he shifts this capital from Mathura to Dwaraka. And they're all safe there. This guy doesn't come to Dwaraka. So that Mathura portion is over. And eventually, the story comes that Krishna, along with Arjuna and Bhima, they go to Jarasandha's kingdom, Magadha, which is actually somewhere near to where we are right now, Jamshedpur. The kingdom of Magad is part of what is today Bihar, northern Bihar, right? So he goes there and he challenges Jarasandha to a fight. He reveals his identity and challenges him to a fight. Jarasandha agrees to fight with Bhima. And as we know, in that fight, eventually with the clue given by Krishna to split his body, Krishna indicates with the help of a straw or a blade of grass that you split his body. That's the way to kill this guy. So Bhima splits his body and kills him. So here, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti invokes the name of Jarasandha. And he says, just like Jarasandha, people like Jarasandha is always eager to attack Sri Bhagavan in his appeared form with arrows. These people, the people who are referred to in this shloka as suram-bha, they attack his deity. How do they attack? Not with arrows, not with any physical weapon. They attack it by defective reasoning. For example, they give a reasoning like this. Some people give this reasoning that this thing that you are calling as Krishna, okay, is actually a piece of stone. It is this matter. Why? Because it has the property of drishyatva. Drishyatva means something that is visible, something that has the property of being visible. If it is divine, then it should not be visible to our eyes. Anything that is divine should not be visible to our eyes. If something is visible to our eyes, then it has to be matter, because our eyes are matter. Matter can see matter. Matter can't see spirit, can't see that which is Brahma, right? Brahma has to be realized. And therefore, you cannot say this is God, it's just matter. Okay, this is the logic given. It sounds very, very good logic, right? And that's why it exists. That logic exists because it sounds very good. It must be material in nature. So this drishyatva property, similarly parinamatva. Parinamatva means the property of transformation. Anything material transforms. So parinam hota hai. Anything which is Brahma has no transformation. The Atma has no transformation. It is beyond parinam. So because the deity form of the Bhagavan, that material form actually can undergo transformation if you see it from material terms, right? So therefore it can't be divine. Okay. Now this is called asuram-bha because this logic, for it to appeal, you have to go against the Shastra. Shastra very categorically says that Bhagavan's deity should never be thought of as material. Even though it is made of stone or wood or metal sometimes, it should never be thought of as material, as equivalent to any other material object. It is considered as divine, and it's always residing in Vaikuntha. It should be always respected as residing in Vaikuntha and treated like that. Okay, and there are many narratives which we hear. For example, if you listen to the story of the deity of Alarnath. Alarnath is in Odisha, nearby. So I'm giving you examples of nearby deities. So Alarnath deity is in Odisha. It's in a place called Brahmagiri, which is south of Puri, on the way towards the Chilka lake from Puri, in that road. So there in this temple of Alarnath is a very beautiful deity of Vishnu, standing deity of Vishnu. And there's a story that goes that once, this deity was being worshipped by a very pious family, a Brahmin family. And this Brahmana had a small son who was very small, very young, like 6 or 7 years of age. And once this Brahmana had to attend to some work which required him to go away from the temple for some time. And it happened during the time when the deity is supposed to be given its bhog. Bhog means the food which we offer to the deity in the temple, right? So normally what happens in any temple, in any practice, or even at home, if you offer the food, whatever you offer to Bhagavan, you offer with bhakti. It says, Tadamam bhakti upahritam, patram pushpam phalam toyam, yome bhaktya prayachati, tadaham bhakti upahritam, ashnami prayatatmanaha. This is from the Bhagavad-gi. It says, whatever you offer to me with devotion, I accept. I accept that because it's offered with bhakti. I accept and I enjoy. I partake it. So this is the Shastra. But when you actually see what happens, the food that you offer to him, placed in front of him, remains as it is. It looks as if nothing has been eaten. Everything remains as it is. If you offer, for example, 3 gulab jamuns, all the 3 of them, exactly in the way in which you kept there, will be still remaining there after you go and see, after the bhoga is over. Right? And that's what you give it to others, or you yourself have it prasada. So his father told, this boy's father, the Brahmana, told his son that now it's time to offer this bhoga to Bhagavan, which is a daily offering, but I can't be here. So please offer it to Bhagavan and do this offering on my behalf. I will come back and then we can have prasadam. So the little boy, he goes and he offers this to Bhagavan. He goes inside the room and he tells Bhagavan that now my father has told that you must eat this. This is for you. Okay? And only after you eat, we can eat it, tells the deity. And he sits quietly. He waits for Bhagavan to have it. Bhagavan does not have it. He's just still there as it is. So he again tells him that, look, please have it. I brought it for you. There's no response from Bhagavan. And then he says, please have it. If you don't have it, my father will be upset. Every day when my father offers it, you have it. Why you are not having it today? Have I done something wrong? Please have it. So Bhagavan doesn't have it. So he doesn't know what to do, this boy. So finally, he's feeling very anxious that, if Bhagavan doesn't have it, then my father will be very upset. He will think that I have not offered. I have not done the job of offering. So he will not believe me if I say that So he pleads with Bhagavan that you should have it. And there are multiple versions in this story. One version says that he comes back and tells his father that, all the food is I offered, but he is refusing to eat. Then his father says, are you telling me the truth or you're lying? His father doesn't believe. So then next day again it happens. And so this is one version of the story. And then another version is that in the first day itself, this boy, out of anxiety, he picks up a stick and he tells Bhagavan that if you don't eat it, my father will punish me with the stick. So now I'm going to punish you. You have to have it. Okay, he says that. And then Sri Bhagavan actually eats it. He comes down and he eats the food in front of him. And then his father asks him, what happened? Where is the bhog? Then he says, Bhagavan ate it. He says, what do you mean Bhagavan ate it? He says, Bhagavan ate it. Every day you offer it, he eats it. Today also he ate it. He says, no, Bhagavan doesn't eat it. Ramana says, but you only told me to offer it and he will eat it. So they have this dispute, and then the father realizes after this that actually something very divine has happened here. Okay. So anyway, there are many narratives like this in our tradition, in our history, and we should not think that they are just things which people have coined. Actually, many of them. I've also told you the story of Sakshi Gopal, who walked from Vrindavan to the place near Puri, which is called Sakshi Gopal today. So the deity is not an idol. It's not a material statue. It's not like the other statues. We install so many statues of so many celebrities. It's not like that. The deity is divine, and it is not material in nature. It has all the feelings of a living being, and it is Sri Bhagavan himself.
So, sir, what I was talking about just before, doing darshan of Alarna right now for next 15 days, consider it doing darshan of
because Snana Yatra happened today, and so people go to Alarnath.
Yeah, I just forgot that name.
Yes. Okay, now we will look at Sri Baladeva's explanation. He's got a very similar explanation. He says that owing to Maya, some people describe Sri Bhagavan as not a formless, they describe Bhagavan as a formless being, not as a being with form. They describe him as just somebody who's got consciousness, or just a consciousness that's devoid of any attributes, nirvishesh. And he also says that just like the demons attack him with arrows and things like that, his deity is described in the Shruti as eternal, as an eternal being, as not being material, but they describe him as material, using the defective reasoning of Drishyatva. And this is very common, actually. This Drishyatva logic and Parinamatva logic is very common, to say that the deity is just a piece of stone or a piece of wood. Okay, and so Baladeva Vidya says this suram-bha also is a product of Maya only. So in the second line of this shloka, he says, Mayaya apahrita jnanaha asuram bhavam ashta. So this Maya word, Mayaya, refers to the second property also, asuram bhavam also, in the second line. So the four properties of dushkritis. Dushkriti is a person who is very learned, but even though that person is learned and potentially can become a bhakta, can do prapadya, can do prapatti, okay, na prapadyate, still he does not take the shelter of Sri Bhagavan. And there are four types: Mudaha, Naradamaha, Mayaya apakrita jnanaha, and Asuram bhavamashtritaha. So the summarizing what we learned today, I'll come to this deity also. Before that, the incorrect and correct understanding. Incorrect understanding is that Sri Bhagavan is subject to the system of karma like the Indra and the Devas. The correct understanding is Sri Bhagavan is the engineer of the system of karma, and he is beyond it. He is the one who has created that system, but he is himself not influenced by it. He is above it. The beings that we see, Krishna, Rama, etc., they are intelligent beings. They are not God. They are intelligent human beings, but we worship them like God because of their power and their charisma, affluence that they exhibit. This is the incorrect understanding. The correct understanding is that Sri Bhagavan's birth and form resemble that of a human being, but he is not human. In the 4th chapter, he has already said, Janma karma cha me divyam, evam yoveti tattvataha, tyaktva deham punar janmana iti, na eti, mam eti. So Arjuna says, one who knows that my birth and my activities are divine, divya. Divya means divine. Such a person does not take birth again in this material existence, but he attains me. Okay, so we should always keep that in mind. And the incorrect understanding is that the creation, sustenance, and destruction of this universe is actually a product of material nature. There is no conscious creator. The correct understanding is Sri Bhagavan, a conscious being, the supremely conscious being, is the origin, the sustainer, and the dissolution of material creation. So like he said earlier in the 7th chapter, Prabhavaha pralayas tatha. Sri Bhagavan's deity is a material product, like an idol or a statue. And the correct understanding is that it appears like it is material, but it's not material. It is not an idol. It should not be treated on par with other statues and idols that we see. Okay, and finally, Sri Bhagavan is subject to Maya like all living beings. That is an incorrect understanding. The correct understanding is that he is the master of Maya and is never subservient to to Maya. So actually, this last point that I've just made is also a part of the philosophy, Vedantic philosophy, which Adi Shankara propagated, called Advaita. If you see Advaitavad basically says that there is no difference between the Jivatma and the Parabrahma. What we say is Brahma, which is the Supreme Being, and what we call as the Jiva. The Jiva is actually the same Brahma. There's not a separate entity. There's only one entity called Brahma. That's why it's called Advaita. And that entity called Brahma comes under the influence of Maya. Under the influence of Maya, a part of that Brahma thinks that it is not that Brahma. It thinks that it's a Jivatma. So this concept of Jiva is only an illusory concept. There is no separate entity called Jivatma. It is an Upadhi. It's just that Brahma which thinks of itself as a Jiva. So that conception is the Jiva. There's no real Jiva. Right? So this is also called Mayavad. Mayavad means that the potential for Brahman to be under Maya. The obvious question there is that how can you say that Bhagavan can come under Maya when he is himself the master of Maya? So this was clarified. This original Vedantic school of Shankara is also called Mayavad. And within Mayavad, there are explanations of why this happens. There's something called Pratibhimbavad, that just like water reflects the sun. Okay, for example, there's only one sun, but in water, we see an image of the sun in a water body. And so even though there is only one sun, it appears to be existing in the water also to somebody who does not know. So it seems like, okay, there is a sun here. And so there are multiple suns. There are many water bodies. In each of them, there's a reflection of the sun. There are multiple suns. But there's a difference. The difference is that if there is a wind, then on the water, there are waves which are produced, which means the image of the sun will get disturbed. But that original sun, of which these are reflection, will not be disturbed by that wind. It will remain as it is. Right? So similarly, there's only one Brahma. And that Brahma, its reflection appears owing to its avidya, ignorance. Its reflection appears, it reflects itself and thinks of itself as that reflection. And that's why it is subject to all the vikaras. Vikaras means the transformations which happen, like birth, old age, death, growing up, diminishing in size, growing bigger in size. These kind of bodily transformations, the Jivatma experiences. Actually, the Brahman is experiencing, thinking of itself as Jivatma. This is called Pratibhimbavad. There's another one called Parichedavad. Parichedavad is a subset of Mayavad, which says that because of Maya, just like the Akash, space. Akash means space, the open space, so much of open space. But you also find space inside an object like a pot. Ghatakash and Mahakash. Ghatakash is that space contained inside a pot. And Mahakash is the open space, the master space. Now, Ghatakash actually is one with that Mahakash, with the open space. But somebody may think that it is not, it is separate because of that binding of that Ghata. That pot has given it an identity, separate identity. But there is no separate identity actually. If the pot is broken, that thing vanishes. There's only one space. Okay, this is called Parichedavad. That a part of that Brahman, uska pariched hota hai. Brahma ka pariched ho karke, wo apne aap ko aise manta hai, Maya ke prabhav se. So what it means is that the Maya Shakti of Bhagavan brings that Bhagavan under herself. But that understanding is not correct. And there's a lot of literature, Vedantic literature, which came after Shankara, which refuted or which has given so many arguments based on the Shastra, based on Veda as well as the Puranas like Bhagavatam, which have shown or tried to show how Advaita has got so many defects in it. Okay? So we'll go to all that in more detail at some appropriate time in the future. Now here, the beautiful deity of Krishna that we see here is a suram-bha deity. Okay, again, coming to the discussion we had about the deity not being an ordinary material idol or a material object, how a deity can sometimes self-manifest itself. Okay, there's a story of this deity. This deity is in Vrindavan, in a temple called the Radha Raman temple in Vrindavan. And this temple was established by a very well-known saint in Vrindavan, a scholarly saint by name Gopala Bhatta Goswami, somewhere in the 16th century. Okay, he was one of the followers or disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, among the six Goswamis, yes. So so this deity has a story, how this deity came about. So it is said that once Sri Gopala Bhatta, he went to Nepal. So Gopala Bhatta originally is from the south. He's a Tamilian. He's born in a Tamil Brahmin family in Srirangam. Srirangam is the biggest Vishnu temple in India. It's worshipped by the Sri Vaishnavas in Tamil Nadu. Srirangam is it's an island in the middle of the Kaveri River, and it's next to the town of Trichy. So in Srirangam, this boy Gopala Bhatta was born, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he went to Srirangam, he stayed in the house of Venkata Bhatta, a Brahman by name Venkata Bhatta, who was associated with this temple. So Gopala Bhatta was a very small child at that time. He became completely attracted to Mahaprabhu. He said, I want to be with him. So he left his home with the permission of his father, and he went with Mahaprabhu. Actually, he didn't go with him. He went to Vrindavan to join Mahaprabhu later, after a few years. And then he stayed in Vrindavan and he developed this philosophy. So he also built this temple of Radharaman. And in this temple, before this deity manifested itself, Gopala Bhatta, he went to the Gandaki river. Okay, there's a river called Gandaki, if you're aware. Gandaki today flows in the border of India and Nepal, the northern edge of Bihar. Yeah, so Gandaki river is known for the Salagram Shila. Okay, Salagram Shila is a particular type of stone. Shila means stone, right? It's a particular kind of stone, but we say it's not a stone actually, it's a living being, which appears like a stone. So black in color, the Salagram Shila, and it is considered as equivalent to Vishnu, a deity of Vishnu. There's no pratishtha for that. Normally when we make a deity, there's a process of sculpting first. You take a stone or wood or something, sculpt the deity, and then we do prana pratishtha for the deity. There's a whole process for doing prana pratishtha. And then we say, now, this is a deity. And we worship the deity. But for Salagram Shila, there is no prana pratishtha. It is taken as it is and worshipped. Directly, it is already Vishnu. It's already, prana pratishtha is already there in it naturally. So, this river, Gandaki, is known for numerous Salagram Shila, which is naturally found in the river, at the bottom of the river. And so normally, it is not a practice to take Salagram Shila from there. You have to receive the Salagram Shila, not by going to Gandaki and picking it up from there, but from your guru or from a saint. There's a process for that. But it so happens that by some arrangement, the Salagram Shila, 12 Salagram Shilas come to Gopala Bhatta Goswami when he goes to Gandaki river. He takes his bath in it and he comes back with 12 Salagram Shilas and he worships them. And so in his mind, he thinks that I should also have a deity to worship. He longs to have a deity because in all temples there is a deity of Krishna. And he's worshipping Krishna. Although the Shila also is Krishna himself, he longs for a deity. So one day he finds, when he goes to the basket where he has kept the Salagram Shilas, that there are only 11 Shilas left in it. And the biggest of them, which was called the Damodara Shila, that is missing in the basket. And in its place, he finds a very beautiful deity of Krishna is kept. So he wonders what has happened. So he turns to the deity and he finds that the same markings, actually all the Salagram Shilas have different types of markings on them. Yeah, and according to the markings on the back on the deity, on the Salagram Shila, the deity is given the Salagram Shila is given a particular name, the name of Vishnu, like it is called Sudarshan Shila or Damodara Shila or Narsimha Shila and so on. So this particular Shila has some markings on it, which is called, and that's why it's called the Damodara Shila. And when he turns this deity of Krishna on the backside, he finds that same markings which were on the Damodara Shila, which is now missing, is present on the backside. And he understands that this Damodar Shila has now transformed itself into a Krishna deity. And that's the picture we are seeing here. This is the Damodar Shila, which has become the Krishna deity, the form of Krishna. So Krishna, because of his bhakti, because of the bhakti of Gopala Bhatta, decided to manifest himself from that Shila form, which he was worshipping, which he was already worshipping, manifest itself as a form, in his two-handed form. This is the Shamasundara. This is called the Shamasundara form of Krishna, which is the form that he presents himself in Vrindavan, in Vraja, okay, where he's called Tribhanga. He's bent in 3 places. Okay, so this is a story of the Radharaman deity in Vrindavan. So today I will stop with this story, and we have spoken about how to not think about Krishna. Okay? Namam dushkritino mudaha, namam dushkritino mudaha, prapadyante naradhamaha, mayaya apahr jnanaha, asuram-bha vam-a. So how not to think about Krishna. In the next shloka in the Bhagavad-gita, which I will do in the next class, the 16th shloka of the 7th chapter, Sri Bhagavan will speak about 4 types of people who are sukritinaha. Opposite of dushkriti is sukriti. And these sukritinaha, they are the people who actually take his shelter, who come to him, who actually take his refuge. So today we will stop with this. And I would like to hear your questions and also hear your comments. Om Tad Vishno Paramam Padagum Sada Pashyanti Surayah Divi Vachakshuratatam Tad Vipraso Vipanyavo Jagruvagum Sassamindhate Vishnor Yat Paramam Padam Parya Aptya Anantaraya Sarvastamoti-ratra Uttama Bhavati Sarvasyaptyai Sarvasya Jityai Sarvameva Tena Apnoti Sarvam Jayati. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.